Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this time round I have got, yes, you guessed it, another library book. I've been madly going through the different libraries in the area. There's about 7 surrounding me. I think it's the best place to be if you're surrounded by libraries. And I've been going through and picking up reading books by Murakami, who is now my favorite author. Why hasn't anyone told me about this author? Oh my God, I'm so glad I found him. This one is After Dark. It is his 9th novel. It was published in 2004 and it was translated from Japanese by Jay Rubin. Now, remember that show with Keith, what was his name? Kiefer Sutherland, where he played over the course of 24 hours what would happen in time. You know, I think the show was called 24. Well, think about something like that, but in book format. And in this book, Murakami shows us a very quiet, dark world situated in Tokyo during the hours of, say, midnight to about 6 o'clock the next morning. Okay, we are observers to a world in a city that is dark, that is full of lights, with characters who kind of keep to themselves, bit of mystery, bit of fantasy sprinkled in there. It is, the mood of this book is fantastic. It's kind of like you're at night out there in the city, no one knows you. It's rain. It's kind of a Blade Runner-ish, if you get my drift. What is this book about? I've got my notes here that I just quickly jotted them down. The way Murakami writes in this book is in the first person plural. What that means is he says, we observe Mari, we observe XYZ. And so he puts us in a scene where we are sitting back watching the characters. And it's a brilliant way of writing because as you pick up the book, you're immediately immersed into the observer role, into a world, into a place in Tokyo. Well, actually, where it's situated is a Denny's restaurant of all places. And so we're in a Denny's restaurant and we're observing Mari, who's a 19-year-old student, and she's smoking. And she's in this restaurant with other people, but she's by herself and she's reading a book. And so we have this image in our head. But over time, and it's kind of like a slow clicking of time, and you could see each chapter with a clock and the time on it. And on top, what happens is like 2:43 a.m. and 3:42 a.m. In comes Takahashi, hopefully I said that right, Takahashi, who's a muso, and he recognizes her because he knows her sister, Eri, and they start having this conversation, and it's a bit weird conversation, but Mari's finding that she's opening up to Takahashi. He has this kind of feeling that, you know, people just talk to him quite openly. And Takahashi confirms that he had the crush on Eri, her beautiful sister. And that's when Mari says to Takahashi that she loves her sister, but somehow over time they split apart. Her sister was young, beautiful. She was a model, and that she had got into the wrong crowd, but that her sister now is constantly sleeping. She's in this slumber that she can never get out of. And she only wishes that her sister would just wake up. And so you think this is really bizarre. And then another chapter, then we see Eri, and she's sleeping in this kind of empty room with the television on, and the television is flickering on, and someone's watching her, but we don't know who that someone is. And automatically I keep thinking about The Ring, or I keep thinking about those Japanese shows with, you know, the kind of like the scary women with the long hair over there, and they just kind of appear all the time. That's kind of like the feeling you get when you're reading this book. As the story goes on, she then gets approached by someone who seeks her assistance because she knows how to speak Chinese. And this person takes her to the Love Hotel, a hotel where people pay by the hour or the day to bring prostitutes in. And one of the Chinese prostitutes was beaten up by one of the patrons. And so Mari gets asked to try and translate and help this Chinese prostitute and get her to safety, which she does, okay? But in through all this, we also see the person who punched and hurt this Chinese prostitute. He's an office worker and he's working late at night in the office. And we are observing him being in the office late at night while he works, or he works out, or he's trying to prevent going home. And his name is Shirakawa. And we don't exactly feel sorry for him, but we know that there's a story there, but we don't really know what that story is about. And there's elements where he kind of looks into the mirror, he looks at himself, he can see his reflection, but then when he walks and he leaves, his reflection of himself is still there. So there's all these elements of fantasy in this book as well that is kind of freaky, that makes you think, what are the themes here? What's going on? And part of me thinks that it could be that each of us has two sides to ourselves. Now, this isn't explained. The kind of freaky, fantastical aspects in this book, those reflections, or the television, that person in the TV just kind of looking at Eri in an eerie room through the television set. You know, it's bizarre. It's kind of freaky. It puts you on edge. But you're trying to understand what the author might mean by it, but it doesn't come out in this book. So you're left with your own judgments. For me, what I thought about when I read this book, I read it quite quickly because the story just sucks you in. You just want to know what is happening and why it's happening. What I started thinking about is the fact that for many years now, I have not stayed awake past, say, 11 o'clock at night. I'm early to rise, but also early to go to bed. So there's a part of me that I have never experienced life or what the world is past 11 o'clock at night. If I was to go into the city at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to a Denny's restaurant, not that we have a Denny's restaurant, let's just say, pick another restaurant, what kind of characters would be there? How would I be like? Now, part of me thinks that the reason I don't do that is, number one, is my age. I'm old. I want to go to bed. That's all I want to do. But, you know, there is also a life where, I guess even when I was younger, I simply didn't go out late at night because of this fear of being female, being by myself. It is not something that we usually do and hang out by ourselves at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, right to the wee early of the, maybe I could be wrong. Maybe there are lots of women out there who do that. So good on them. But I'm saying I didn't do this. So part of me thinks that Mari, the 19-year-old, for being out at this time by herself, to me is kind of shows a strong personality, a self-confident personality. But it's something that it made me think, man, I haven't done that. What would I have been like doing this? Would I have been able to do something like this? And to get herself into a situation where she's talking with strangers, helping strangers, and getting mixed up with all sorts of different people like prostitutes, mobsters, people in crime. Yeah, you get my drift. So yeah, we don't really know the themes, but for me, I kind of keep thinking maybe it means that by day we are some people, by night we could be different people. Maybe that is the reflection. That part of me, I think I haven't even explored what that element of my life could be like. Am I a different person in the evening? Usually I get up and I have insomnia, and what do is I stay back at home and I read a book. But would I go out of the house at 3:30 in the morning to go sit in a cafe to read? No, I wouldn't. Maybe Tokyo is different. Maybe Tokyo is safe. I definitely wouldn't do it in Melbourne, that's for sure. Anyway, that is Murakami After Dark. Let me know if you've read this book. What did you think? And what about any other books of his? I'm thinking of creating a list of Murakami books and then getting my husband to buy all the books for Christmas present. All right then, thanks for listening and watching. Bye for now.